So last week when we were working with acrylics, here we used what color scheme? Thank you very much. Yeah, we used monochromatic. Okay, and what technique did we use in terms of creating our value scale? Do you remember? Modeling. Thank you very much. Yeah, we created it, but we used modeling. Modeling is going to give you something that's very smooth and very slick. It's going to make the object, whatever it is that you're painting, using that technique, it's going to make it look very firm, very solid. Okay? Now, however, not everything that we paint is always going to be firm and solid. Sometimes things are going to be a little bit softer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you another technique. It's called scumbling. All right? How many of you ever worked with dot density with pen or pencil? Good. All right. It's very, very similar. Okay. In terms of what you're going to be doing is you're going to be stabbing the paper. So, same thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use the same blue that I used up here, which is my phthalo blue. And I'm going to create a value scale going from light to dark. But now I'm going to be using complementary. So instead of using black, what am I going to use over here? Orange. Thank you very much. Okay. So once again, I'm going to dip into my my phthalo blue on my palette. Now, I really load up the brush. So as you can see, it's really loaded up. Scumbling really requires you to push the paint into the canvas. So if you notice, it's creating a texture. It's not going to be smooth. As I'm pushing it across, it's going to get a little bit lighter because the paint starts to kind of come off, and so that creates more of like a dry brush, but it's still a scumble. Okay, I go the opposite direction. The more paint you have, the thicker it's going to be. The less paint you have, obviously the thinner. Okay, the less paint you have, it's also going to dry quicker. So you got to be careful about that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a little bit of orange. So you can see how much orange I grabbed. Now I'm going to scumble right back into it over this way. And I build it back up. And you'll notice that with the scumble, it blends in really quickly. You know, it just blends in really, really fast. Grab a little bit more orange. You also notice that as it starts to dry, the paintbrush will actually start to lift some of the paint around, which is what helps create that texture. Okay. Now I'm going to go into the other side. You notice this one gets done pretty quickly. Now when I go to the other side, what am I going to add to make it lighter? Thank you very much. Yes, I'm going to use white. So once again, I take a little bit in the middle because I want the paint to be wet when it mixes in. Now you notice that I use my masking tape around the edges so that way I can get a nice crisp edge. That's something about scumbling, that when you're using it, it tends to kind of go a little bit crazy, meaning it kind of spreads out. So if you want it to be in just a certain area, masking is usually a really good thing to do. Notice, now I'm going to scumble across. And notice how it blends and it creates a value scale really quickly and easily. Pretty crazy, huh? And that's how you create those textures. Now, I definitely don't want too much of the white over way too far, so I'm going to grab a little bit more of my blue. I'm going to actually rinse off my paintbrush a little bit so it's not as wet. I'm going to take my blue once again and I'm going to work it back in. And what you see me doing is as I'm stabbing, I'm not just going like this, okay, because that'll create lines, but I'm actually twisting the brush as I'm stabbing, as I am scumbling. Does that make sense? I could go a little bit lighter and keep going. Any questions? So what technique is this? What color scheme? Scumbling, and what color scheme? Complementary. Notice how I have them labeled. Okay, make sure that you label them. And there you go.